Welcome to the Clap Podcast, where we scratch your itch for film and television. We keep you up to date with the latest news and keep things fresh with our thoughts and reviews on the latest from the industry.
This week, Toby and I look at the latest trailer for the newest Bad Boys film, Bad Boys Ride or Die, as well as bring you our thoughts on the latest film in the Ghostbusters franchise, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Stay tuned for more. Hello, and welcome back to the Clap Podcast. As always, I'm here with Toby Yeomans. How are you, Toby?
I'm good. My voice is going to be a little croaky today. I was at a concert last night, so if I'm a little bit quieter, that is why.
How was it? Who were you saying?
It was brilliant. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name of the actual band because we might get age restricted, but it was called Grey Day. Was the entire tour if you're talking about everyone. But it was fantastic.
Yeah. That's great. I'm glad you had a good time. Did you manage to watch anything this week?
I have. I've been watching a couple of things. So there's the new Invincible season coming out on Prime. So I've been trying to keep up to date with that. I've actually gone back and rewatched the original Avatar: The Last Airbender because I couldn't do the live action. So
right. Okay. So the animated one.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Watching a bit of that. But other than that, we went and saw Ghostbusters, of course, as well. And we'll be talking about that one later.
We did.
Yeah.
Excited for that one.
Yeah, and you've had a big week as well. How have you been?
Oh, I'm good. It has been a massive week. Working on a project that I'm really excited to share with everyone.
Ooh.
I'm going to be a bit elusive at the moment.
Ooh.
I'm going to be quiet and not reveal all, but I'm really excited. And when it's done, I will announce on the podcast what it's about and where you can access it. But it's a really cool project, documentary I'm working on at the moment. So that's taking up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
But I am very excited to announce what it is when it comes to it. I've got a great team behind me who are helping me make it really good as far as we are trying to make it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what have you watched this week?
I've watched a few things. So obviously Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which is kind of the major film that we're talking about this week. But I also finished The Gentleman Show in its entirety.
Oh, yeah.
Really enjoyed it. Really liked it. It only got better for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I recommend it to any fans of the original film. But I also rewatched The Creator, and now Toby probably knows why I rewatched The Creator. But that will kind of come as a part of the announcement I'll make when my film is over. But I rewatched The Creator just because there's some amazing talent involved in that film, and I was really keen to check it out because I haven't seen it since I saw it with you at the movie theaters.
Yeah. I've only seen it the one time, but
I still enjoyed it. I know what you mean. The story isn't perfect, but I still think the visuals and the relationship between the kid character and John David Washington was actually really good. I did enjoy it, but I know what you mean. It's a very visually pleasing film, but the story doesn't contain quite enough substance to make it an epic.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I was never disliking the film because of its visuals. The CGI is fantastic, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've hit it on the head on the nail there. So I think that's my opinion on it. But that's all right.
Absolutely, we have a massive week in news this week, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Just a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'll get started. So, at the TCM Classic Film Festival, David Fincher will introduce a restored version of the 1995 feature film Seven. So the 7 4K restoration is going to be 4K Blu-ray and has been delayed to 2025 following improvements to the remaster.
So as far as I'm aware with that one, it's not showing it in IMAX theaters, but they're showing it at an IMAX theater for its restoration. So they're showing it sort of at an IMAX theater, but it's really great that we're getting a restored version of it that is going to be made available in this 4K Blu-ray special pack that we're getting.
Yeah.
So, real hardcore fans of Seven will be able to see it in a brand newly remastered version.
Do you want to see Seven in 4K though? I feel like it's a very grotesque film. I don't know if I want to see it all enhanced.
You're not wrong. Yeah, I do. I really do, because I feel like David Fincher adds a lot of flair, and I love the visuals he puts to the screen as grotesque and often
morbid.
That's exactly the word I'm looking for.
It's a very intense film.
It is an intense film, but I would like to see it in newly remastered 4K, and they're delaying it for basically a year.
Yeah.
That's how much effort they're putting into it. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, no, that should be good. You'll cop that one for sure, won't you?
I will see. It depends. If they charge an arm and a leg, maybe not, but I will absolutely try.
Pinky finger's okay, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pinky finger's fine.
Yeah.
In other news, we have A24. They have signed a new multi-year exclusive deal with Warner Bros. Discovery to bring all their releases to HBO Max and Cinemax once they've finished their theatrical run. So this is sort of, they've extended the contract on films that already exist that are available on these platforms. So any of the films already existing on HBO Max in the US will still be available, and they'll be available for longer. But any of the new films that A24 are producing and releasing in theaters, they're going exclusively to Warner Bros. Discovery. So they'll be able to distribute them across HBO, Max, and Cinemax.
Sure.
So, for example, films like The Whale, Uncut Gems, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, they are a part of those. So they're going to have their contracts extended with HBO Max. HBO and Max. Ultimately, this deal means that for a period of time, after A24 films have left theaters, so they still get theatrical releases, they'll be exclusively available on Warner Bros. Discovery platforms.
That's interesting, yeah.
So the kind of the new ones to know, and some of the ones that we've been talking about, include like Priscilla, Dream Scenario, and one of the films we reviewed on the show, The Iron Claw. They will be exclusively available to stream on HBO and Max.
Yeah.
For us in Australia, I believe we get a lot of HBO content on Binge. So whether those contracts kind of extend to Binge and they have access to show those A24 films in Australia through that streaming platform, we'll just kind of have to see. But that's my prediction, that they will be available on Binge for us here. But of course, you can still sort of rent it or buy it on iTunes and Amazon Prime and all those, and even get the 4K Blu-rays if you are into that as well. But I just thought that was interesting. So A24 are, exclusively coming to Warner Bros. Discovery.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I think it will definitely draw some people towards it. I think if it is going to Binge, that's pretty lucky for us. I remember watching like the Game of Thrones and House of Dragon on Binge. And I think Breaking Bad as well. So not to say that they don't already have like fantastic content on there. But if you're talking exclusively movies, to get A24's catalogue, that's massive. It'll definitely draw people towards it, I have to imagine.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we've got a lot of big A24 films coming out this year as well. Like we've just recently spoke about Love Lies Bleeding. And of course we have Civil War coming out in April as well.
Yes.
So I think for people who may miss those in theaters, the idea of them coming to Max is a big selling point for that company. And people, I think, will definitely look at that as a streaming service option, given the offering of the A24 films, which are really popular by a lot of movie fans, but also general audiences now as well.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan Coogler has signed on to produce a jukebox musical based on the music of Prince for Universal. Universal acquired the rights to Prince's music 5 years ago. So that's exciting news there. It has reportedly been in the works since 2018 from Proximity Media. And Brian Edward Hill will write the scripts. And this may come after the Untitled project with Michael B. Jordan. Coogler has also worked to expect in 2025.
Yeah, what do you think of this one?
I think it's interesting. I don't know, would it be like biopic? Is that what they're imagining? Or is it just something inspired by the music?
I believe the idea of a jukebox musical is like you incorporate another story, but using the music of Prince.
Right, so like Mamma Mia.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I interpret that to mean, where we'll kind of have its own story, but with just exactly like Mamma Mia, exclusively the music of that artist.
Yeah. I hope they... My issue with Mamma Mia, if this is the direction that they're going in, is that I feel like they just work the plot around the songs that they have access to, and I hope in this case they write a compelling plot with the music.
Yeah.
As the background to it. I think you can do it with Prince's catalogue. He's got some fantastic songs.
Yeah, definitely.
It's exciting. I think it's interesting they're going in that direction rather than like the biopic, which is the rave these days. You got any famous artist, you want to do a biopic of them.
We have Michael Jackson biopic in the works at the moment, don't we?
Isn't it his son's playing him?
I believe so, yeah. I think you're correct.
It looks
and we've
good.
just had Bob Marley, haven't we, as well?
There's also the British musician, what's her name? Amy Winehouse biopic.
Amy Winehouse. And isn't the Beatles each Beatles member is getting their own biopic
Oh, really?
as well.
That's funny. Yeah.
I believe, yeah.
There you go.
So a lot there.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
loving the biopics, certainly. But no, it's an interesting direction to see them going that way. I just hope, for Prince's sake, that it's not like cringy type of, musical just with his songs. That it's, I don't know, good representation of the music that he created.
How are you with musicals in general? I feel like we haven't spoken about musicals much on the show, but do you tend to lean towards them when a new one comes out, or is it not ones that you revisit much?
I'm a bit tight with musicals. It really depends. I'm not someone that leans towards them typically. I think musicals really good for like theatre. As in like if there's a theatre going, like a play that's going on with musicals, that's fine. Like I feel like it does well there. But I feel like whenever you're converting it to movies, it's just done poorly more often than not. Not to say that there's like not any good ones. Like I went and saw the Mean Girls musical at the start of the year.
Yes, you did, didn't you? I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, and it was enjoyable. Like it was so different to the film that like I can't really compare them in the same vein. But like they're enjoyable to the point that they can be. I don't I don't critically analyze them the same way that I would like a traditional film, just because I feel like they're representing something different in like the creation of content. Like that's where I think musicals do really well on stage, because like you have the likes of like Chicago, like these theater shows can be observed a little bit more critically. Like when you convert it to a movie, you have to look at it through the lens of like, oh, how's the camera work and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, that's not really what you want to focus on. You want to focus on the music and the story being told, which I think, kind of just takes away from it a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're right. I find it interesting with musicals because there's kind of different ways you can take musicals. So like you obviously have ones like La La Land where they're singing and dancing sort of outside the world. You know what I mean by that, where it cuts reality to do the singing and dancing, and then it comes back into the story.
Yeah.
But then you have like Mamma Mia, where it's a part of the storyline itself.
Yeah.
And I find it's interesting to me which ones like people tend to find they are attracted to. Like I think The Greatest Showman was really successful as a musical because the music was such an integral part of that story. And like a lot of scenes wouldn't work necessarily without the incredible music.
Les Mis as well, similar.
Les Mis, exactly right. So I think musicals can be done so well. I'll be just very interested to see what they do with this jukebox musical. Yeah, which is sort of like how I feel about Joker, where it could either work incredibly well, or it may be a bit of a distraction to the core story I want to be told.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That's fair. You've brought us some good musicals there. I think I was being a bit too critical. Like there obviously are fantastic films that are musicals. It's just something I don't usually lean towards as much as traditional films, but you certainly can do it well. I think I was being a bit too harsh there.
No, you're right though. Like it is a difficult one to nail. I totally feel that. But when it works, it can really work as well.
Certainly. I'll shift us a little bit away from musicals, unless we have some unheard news about this one might be a musical. The creator of the crime drama Peaky Blinders, Mr. Stephen Knight, has confirmed that Cillian Murphy will reprise his role as Tommy Shelby in the upcoming Peaky Blinders movie, and that's expected to start shooting in September. No news of if it's a musical yet, but you never know.
Yeah. Let's go. Cillian Murphy.
Excited for that one?
Yeah, I think any opportunity to see Cillian Murphy come back as Tommy Shelby would get fans excited. And I like the idea of a movie as well, a bit more of a, an event surrounding Peaky Blinders, because it's so iconic. So many people talk about it. I just love the idea that we're going to get a movie, and I feel like if, the movie can have the larger budget that's associated with that and, the integral cast of the show, they could do a lot with that. I think it's so cinematic, that world. Do you know what I mean? And I love the idea of Cillian Murphy off the back of his incredible success with Oppenheimer. Will come back and sort of maybe close out his efforts with Tommy Shelby potentially. So we'll see how that works.
Second Oscars run, maybe.
Oh, I'd love that. His performance as Tommy Shelby is remarkable, but I don't know.
I don't know if it's big enough. I don't think it's quite big enough to. Not compared to like the likes of Oppenheimer, which was such a massive production. I think it's also hard when you're like going from a TV show to a movie to like, I don't know, hit the Oscars the same way.
I think you're right. And especially where we see the films that the Oscars typically lean towards being, kind of biopics and typically roles based on real life or quite, dramatic, emotional roles. I don't know whether that performance of Tommy Shelby, as amazing as it is, appeals to that sort of market within the Oscars realm.
Yeah, certainly.
On to some of the trailers and announcements we got for this week. We got our first look at the new entry in the Bad Boys franchise. It's called Bad Boys Ride or Die, and it will release on June 7th, exclusively in theaters and IMAX as well. It looks like a lot of fun. I recommend checking out the trailer if you haven't already. It's going to be the fourth film in the franchise, obviously having Will Smith and Martin Lawrence reprise their roles from the previous films. It is being directed by Adil El-Arbi and Bilal Fallah, and they recently directed 2 episodes of the Ms. Marvel TV show for the MCU, as well as a film called Rebel in 2022. They've had some other projects, but they're 2 of the ones that they've recently worked on. The Bad Boys franchise has got a lot of hits, a lot of misses. The Michael Bay ones work for a lot of people. I personally really enjoy them as well. The third one didn't connect with me as much as the Michael Bay ones. I didn't find they had the same flair. As enjoyable as I still found it, it just didn't stand out to me as much as the first and second. But I'll be very interested because I think the trailer looks really good, actually. Have you had a chance to check it out, Toby?
I actually haven't yet. I haven't watched any Bad Boys films.
Really?
To be entirely honest with you, So, yeah, this is a franchise kind of outside my knowledge. It does sound interesting, though. I think when you're talking about the directors having directed the Miss Marvel show, I'm pretty sure that was a very child-friendly show. From my understanding, the Bad Boys franchise isn't extremely child-friendly to the same extent.
No, this trailer looks violent, though.
Yeah, so I think
it looks action-packed.
That's interesting. I feel like we haven't seen Will Smith for a little while since the Oscars. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. I can't think of any major films.
Wait, what happened? I haven't heard about it. Can you run me through?
So he won an Oscar and he was really happy about it. So he just didn't do any films afterwards. That's what happened.
Damn. All right.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That's all.
Fair enough.
That's all that happened.
Because he had that film. Was it Emancipation that came out after the Oscars?
Maybe. I
can't
remember
Apple
anything.
TV. But I just don't think it got people saw it and it got good reviews as far as I'm aware critically, but I don't think it got kind of the social media traction given the events of the Oscars.
Yeah. As I said, I hadn't really heard anything. That's why I really was talking about it. But obviously, since he's the star of the franchise, I imagine that people are still going to go in to watch it if they enjoy the Bad Boys films. So
I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there. I do think the Bad Boys franchise is potentially pushing as far as it can go. I'll put it that way. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's sort of a buddy cop, a violent buddy cop film, but it's mostly around the action. It's a great comedy with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. They're very funny together. But I just don't know how many times they can do something new with that. But I'll be very interested because I know a lot of people are real defenders of the third one and they really enjoyed it. And that's totally fair. I had a great time with it. It just doesn't stand out that much in my mind. But I will absolutely be there for the fourth one. And especially given, it's getting a theater and IMAX release, the talent of the directors, and of course, the reprising of Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in their role.
Yeah.
I think this will be a hit if it gets some good feedback.
No, fair. That's very fair.
One I think you're going to be quite excited for, speaking of other trailers coming out this week, we got a new trailer for Yorgos Lanthimos' film Kinds of Kindness. And of course, Yorgos Lanthimos has recently received, multiple nominations and multiple wins in sort of the production departments of his film Poor Things. So we got a new trailer for the new film that's coming out, and they've been quite public in their sort of speaking about this film because it's going to star Emma Stone as well. And the synopsis of the film says it's a triptych fable following a man without choice who tries to take control of his own life. A policeman who is alarmed that his wife, who was missing at sea, has returned and seems as a different person. And a woman determined to find a specific someone with a special ability who is destined to become a prodigious spiritual leader. I don't know about you. I have no idea what that's about.
It sounds interesting. It's just in the way that it's been worded there. It does sound very much like his the dialogue in his films. Just it tosses you around a little bit and spits you back out, and you have to hope to figure things out a bit.
I completely agree. That's how I interpret that it's actually a very smart synopsis.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about this one. I think it could be really good. We've seen Yorgos get a lot of publicity, a lot of attention from his fantastic work in Poor Things, and of course The Favourite, The Lobster, and films like that. He's done some great films. They're very, niche films and unique, I'd say.
Stylized, I think, is the correct word.
That is probably a correct way of putting it, because they're really popular and they do really well. And I love the idea of him reuniting with Emma Stone on a new film.
Certainly.
And I should say as well, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, I was going to say
to be in it.
Willem Dafoe again. That's exciting.
Yeah, and some great actors and actresses in general. We have Hunter Schafer, who was seen in Euphoria and the most recent Hunger Games film, and as well as Mamadou Athie, who was recently seen in the Jurassic World Dominion. So you've got some major cast and up-and-coming stars in this film.
Yeah, no, that's...
So I'm very curious, and the trailer looked really good, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I haven't caught the trailer yet, unfortunately, but I'll have to have a look at it. I really enjoyed Poor Things and The Lobster as well. I think they're both fantastic films. And I love the direction. I'm not even going to try and say his name, but he always does a fantastic job.
He does.
So, yeah, stylized film. It depends on what the synopsis actually means, but that's someone that I'll certainly be checking out.
And I don't know about you, I never in a million years saw the pairing of Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos as like a long-term relationship. That might be a weird thing to say, but you know when you think... I just find, for a while, I feel Emma Stone was sort of doing like, Crazy Stupid Love and La La Land, and quite,
I guess.
Like I'm not saying, she was only fitting in a small box, but you had like Easy A and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I guess.
And
that's
I just
true.
like never would have seen her doing these incredibly stylistic sort of art house films, but she's fantastic in it. I'm so glad she's doing it. But I don't know about you. Just this seems to be someone that she's really enjoying working with. And she's doing multiple projects with him.
Yeah, I feel like she's quirky to the point that she fits really well in with like the world that I'm still not going to try his name. He just creates this world that she really blossoms in. Like you saw her in Poor Things. Obviously her performance was brilliant.
Oscar winning, I'd say.
Yeah, you reckon? So like. I can see why she would want to work with him again, just because they do work and mesh so well together to create such a compelling story. So, I can see her continuing like to do these more artsy type of films. And I mean, you look at Willem Dafoe; he's done some quirky films before, so I think he's loving it too.
Of course.
The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse.
So I think he's eating up the opportunity to play some quack fellow, and that's fantastic for them.
He's just in everything, though. I mean, you think about it. He goes in from films like Poor Things and, for example, Kinds of Kindness, to like he was in Aquaman and Spider-Man, of course, and just like such a versatile career.
Who was he
it's
in
incredible.
Aquaman again?
He was in Aquaman.
Who did he play?
He played one of the
Fish.
the second in command guy. Do you remember he helps Jason Momoa find the Trident or tell him where the Trident is, and he trains him up when he's a kid? Yeah. He like trains him in the flashback scenes and all that.
He's done some odd ones. He is everywhere. What's he doing? How did he get into the MCU and the DCU? That's funny.
That's what I mean. He's just a terrific actor, and everyone wants him in their films.
Oh, he's fan cast as the Joker every second day. So I think he's got some versatility to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for those of you who are interested in checking out Kinds of Kindness, it will be in theaters June 21st. Distributed by Fox Searchlight. So I think it'll be a limited release. Do you know what I mean? A bit like Poor Things, where it won't be a wide distribution across all theaters. It may be sort of only in selected theaters near you, but it will be available on June 21st.
Yeah, that's exciting. We got another trailer as well, which I love this director. I don't think you do as much, but that's okay. We got the new trailer for Tim Burton's Beetlejuice sequel, and it will be called, get this, Beetlejuice. and it's starring Michael Keaton again, and Jenna Ortega is coming out for this one as well. So that one will be in theaters and IMAX on September 6th. Any commentary?
Tim Burton and I have different visions of certain things.
I thought you were going to whip it out yeah, we go way back, but we just don't align.
I wish, don't get me wrong, I massively respect him and he's made some terrific things. I would say genuinely, and I know I'm going to be hated by a bunch of Tim Burton fans right now, I thought Wednesday was one of the best things he's done.
That's such a bad take.
I know.
Take.
I know, but I personally don't like films like Edward Scissorhands and stuff. I don't connect with them. I appreciate them, and I think the production design and look and style of the films are great. So to be honest, his direction is fantastic. I just don't connect with those stories.
Yeah.
I just don't find the protagonists that compelling to me. And personally, that's how I felt a bit about Beetlejuice as well.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, I will be very interested to see how this film does. Would I rush out to see this one personally? Not for me, but I'm really glad because I know a lot of people have been asking for a sequel to Beetlejuice for a long time now, and especially with the updated production aesthetics and design that we can get now, I think the world that Tim Burton creates in Beetlejuice can be transferred over so well. But how do you feel? Because I know you're a bit of a Tim Burton fan. How do you feel about the sequel coming out?
I think it's exciting. Beetlejuice is an interesting story. I think I'm surprised he's not releasing it closer to Halloween. I feel like that's what I always link Tim Burton with.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
So that was my type of thing. I mean, maybe they're getting it out early enough that people can watch it at home on Halloween. Maybe that's the ambition there.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But I love his films. I think he's got a good style to him. I don't think they're all fantastic, masterpieces. And I'm not going to praise him and say he's the best director ever. I just like his style, and I like the feel of the films. They always got that sort of creepy but goofy at the same type of time, feeling to them. So I'm excited for it. I'll have to rewatch the first one because I watched it ages ago, just to catch back up on it. But I'm excited for it. It's got some good names to it. Michael Keaton's coming back, which is exciting. Jenna Ortega's killing the horror scene right now, so it's good to see her in there as well. So yeah, I'm definitely excited for this one.
I will ask, what is your favourite Tim Burton project?
It's a good question. The Batmans.
So God, he did the Batmans. Wow, yeah.
Yeah. I like Dark Shadows a lot. Dark Shadows is good fun. I'm trying to think of...
I don't think I've seen Dark Shadows.
No, really? That's really good.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one.
It's a hard question because he's got some bangers.
He does, doesn't he? That's what I mean.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention Corpse Bride.
Oh, yeah.
Corpse Bride is an absolutely fantastic film. I do...
When I say...
You go.
So, because when I say Wednesday, I think that might be a bit of recency bias because I haven't revisited a lot of his earlier films for a while now.
Yeah.
That could change, but I just remember actually really enjoying Wednesday and getting all the way through it and wanting to binge the next episode. And that is kind of new for me, where normally when a Tim Burton film comes out, I'm not the first one to rush into the theater. I normally go, but I'm not the first one there. Whereas Wednesday, I was very excited whenever I could move on to another episode.
Yeah.
So I think that might be kind of a factor in my thoughts for it. But I'll definitely have to revisit some of his earlier work and things like that, because Edward Scissorhands I haven't seen for a while now and films like that. So I'll be definitely interested to see how Beetlejuice does. And I'm very happy for the fans of Beetlejuice because I know this has been, a big project people have been looking forward to for a long time now.
Yeah, no, certainly. I was also going to just mention number 9. It's just called 9. That's a good one as well by Tim Burton.
Really?
Yeah.
Again, I haven't seen that one.
Or Frankenweenie.
Interesting.
Frankenweenie goes crazy.
Oh, Frankenweenie, yeah.
We love some Frankenweenie.
That I have seen.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, because it was Coraline Tim Burton as well.
No, I don't believe so. No.
Was that not? Oh, okay.
Coraline is a banger though. You should watch that.
It is a banger. Well. That's why I was thinking was that him. Yeah.
No, I believe. I can't remember who that was.
Yeah, I believe you're right. It's not. My bad. Anyway, moving on to some other announcements of the week. Amazon, MGM, and Lionsgate have confirmed a sequel to the 2018 film A Simple Favor, starring Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. Have you seen that one, Toby?
I believe film? I have, yeah.
Yeah?
I think so. If it's the one I'm thinking of, because it had the cast is bringing it back to me. I believe I have. I'm trying to think of how they could do a sequel for that film, though.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean, but it is set to begin production later this year. It will stream on Prime Video.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's what Amazon are producing their content for at the moment. But the same director as the first one is coming back. So if that, increases your excitement at all. He directed the first one, and he's previously directed films like the 2016 Ghostbusters, which is the female-led cast.
Okay, I was going to ask which one that was. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and he also did Spy and The Heat. I really enjoy Spy. I thought Spy was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that he is returning to reprise his role. And I was kind of looking at, did this film do incredibly well to kind of warrant a sequel? And actually, look, the first film earned $53 million domestically and $97 million globally off a budget of $20 million.
Oh, wow, okay. That's pretty big. I thought it was pretty niche.
So it did very well.
Yeah, because when you're saying it, like, I've seen the film, but the name didn't, like, immediately ring a bell, and I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that one, like, distinctively. But, obviously, it's not all right with itself to the point that they're warranting a sequel for it. I mean, if you just talk about the numbers there that you've pointed out, that's very well.
That's what I thought as well. I was initially thinking, did everyone want a sequel to A Simple Favor? But then I looked and I went, wow, people really turned out to see this one. So good on them. And of course, you're going to have Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick returning for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exciting for fans of the first one.
No, it is. It's funny when you say, did people want a sequel? It's really one of those things that, like, did people want a sequel, or did they just think this one did really well and, like, the cast is fantastic, so let's just do another one, But
the thing is, it's a straight, as far as I'm aware, it says it's streaming on Prime. It might get a theatrical release, or at least a limited one, but it's not going to get anywhere near the same numbers if it doesn't release in theaters.
Yeah.
So it'll be hard to compare the two when the sequel comes out.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Moving on, we got Katie O'Brien, who was we've recently talked about her in Love Lies Bleeding. She has actually been cast in the newest Mission Impossible movie. There's 8 of them, so I'm starting to think they're kind of possible missions, but that's exciting news.
Yeah, mission kind of possible now.
More often than not possible.
More often than not, with family, it's possible.
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong franchise.
Whoops. But no, that's very exciting. I think she was fantastic in Love Lies Bleeding, so I'll be interested to see what she does. And I actually haven't seen number 7 yet, so I'm a bit behind.
Have you not?
But I feel like there's
Have you not seen Dead Reckoning?
I'm not in a rush because they haven't even released the second part of it yet.
I know, but it's a good movie. I actually really enjoyed that one. You should check it out.
I should. I meant to catch it, but it's just I don't know where to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
That's my excuse, I swear.
But yeah, so Katie O'Brien coming to the cast. I think that's so great. Like, she's fantastic in Love Lies Bleeding. Tremendous actress, and of course, an amazing physical actress as well. We saw some brief action sequences in Love Lies Bleeding, and she was tremendous in those. So she's going to pair so well with the other cast of Mission Impossible 8.
Christopher Nolan will receive a knighthood in England, becoming Sir Christopher Nolan. Wow, okay. That's huge for him. And his wife, who also produces his film, Emma Thomas, will receive a damehood. That is massive for the Nolans.
How cool is that?
That's big, yeah.
So deserved. Like, they're amazing, and the work that they do in Hollywood is just
question
tremendous.
As an Australian, talking to a British person. What do you get knighthoods for? Like, what do you do?
I believe you just have to have made a tremendous contribution to some aspect of something. Do you know what I mean? So
vague.
Sorry?
It's so vague. Like,
well, I don't think there's any specific. There's not a rule book, but I think it's how well received and influential Nolan's films have been, and especially we've seen that with Oppenheimer. And how the way he films his projects and the just tremendous achievements he made within cinema and promoting, a lot of really great projects. To be honest, I don't know the rule book. I don't know how it works. But as far as I'm aware, you just have to make a significant contribution and sort of change the world in some way, I'd argue, or just be a major contributor to some industry.
That was a test. You've just failed the UK citizenship test.
Yeah.
It's a shame
Well,
to
I'm
see.
not there, so.
Damn. Doesn't want to go back, obviously.
I honestly don't know. I really don't. But I'm pretty sure you have like Sir Ian McKellen as well. For sort of these are the entertainment ones I can remember. And Sir Patrick Stewart as well.
Yeah, of course.
So, we've seen a lot of major actors, theatre actors, and of course film actors as well. But
do you reckon,
now,
do you reckon Patrick Stewart just controlled the Queen's mind to get his knighthood?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah. He just held his hand to his temple.
To his temple.
And then did it. Yeah. Do you
I see
reckon
that.
James McAvoy's like, shit, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, true. Yeah, tactical.
Yeah. So if they announce after Nolan that James McAvoy is doing it, we'll know why.
Yeah, we know why. He's listened to our podcast. That's why he's like, damn, should have thought of that.
Love it. I love it. In other news, we also have Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, opening at Cannes Film Festival. So very lucky to anyone who gets to go to Cannes and see this film early. It's going to be the 5th installment. We've kind of spoken about this on the podcast before, but it's going to release on the 23rd of May. But luckily, the dishwasher is beeping. I apologize for that. Luckily, for those of you attending Cannes, it will open there. So that's really exciting. Good luck to the cast and crew, and I hope it gets a really great response there.
Yeah, no, that's I'm sure we're going to catch that one, and we might do a review of that one if we find the time for it, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% going to go see this one in IMAX. Really excited for it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Toby? Do you think you'll check this one out in IMAX?
I still need to watch Mad Max Fury Road, man. I'm behind. But there's so many films coming out like around this time. Like April is going to be a huge month for film, and then I feel like right afterwards we're still going to be packed trying to catch everything that's coming out.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I agree with you, and I think Furiosa is going to be one of the biggest of this coming season. I really do feel that. I think there's a lot of popularity around it, and of course, Mad Max Fury Road was incredibly popular when it released. And I think there's a lot of buzz about it in Australia as well, obviously with Chris Hemsworth being involved and Fury Road being a major Australian sort of film as well.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of excitement here in Australia for this one. Just be interesting to see how it goes, I think.
There's a lot of Australian films coming out there right now.
There is. Moving on to Hollywood, so not Australian films, we have Sebastian Stan, who people will know as Bucky Barnes in the MCU. He will not be reprising his role in Captain America 4. And this will come as, I think, quite a shock to a lot of people. For anyone who saw Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the previous Captain America installments, he's a major part of those films and a major plot point throughout all the Captain America films and, of course, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So he will not be in the new film, but some fans are speculating he may transform into the character in the comics known as the White Wolf, as he has a confirmed appearance in the film, or a film or TV show, I can't quite remember, but Thunderbolts. So yeah, but he's not going to be returning for Captain America 4. How do you feel about that one?
I think it's very funny how you introduced him as Sebastian Stan, known for Bucky Barnes, isn't going to play Bucky Barnes anymore. That's funny to me. Look, I can see why people want to be starting to, like, these established actors might be starting to move away from the MCU. Not to say, like, it's a sinking ship just yet. It probably is, but, like, when you're trying to establish yourself, you don't want to be stuck to a character for too long. And you see the likes of RDJ moving away from, like, a character that was so significant to him to do other projects where he's winning Oscars for him. So I can see why Sebastian Stan might be wanting to do something similar. I don't know.
I don't know if it's his choice, though.
Oh, you don't think they asked him?
It doesn't say that he doesn't want to reprise his role. It just says that he's confirmed not to be in it.
Ooh, drama.
So that's, I think, the interesting part, where maybe it's a decision, a character decision, where they're putting him in other projects and not Captain America 4.
Sure, yeah. I don't know. The MCU's in a weird place, whereas, like, I am not hugely invested in much that's going on, to the point that, like, I want them to do anything specific with, like, establishing characters and stuff like that. So they can make him the White Wolf, and I'm going to feel mostly indifferent to it. I just want to see them make good films, like, that have, you know, decent plots, decent characters, decent acting, decent CGI, and effects and stuff like that. And that's I actually don't mind too much what characters are involved, because I just feel at this point a lot of the characters that we've become so attached to are either lost or that they're doing their own type of stuff where you're not going to see them as often. The MCU that I'm interested in is what they're doing with like the Fantastic Four, and who they're going to bring in to replace Kang, who I imagine is going to have to be Doctor Doom, but that's just me.
Yeah.
So yeah, for this news, like I can see why people who really loved Sebastian Stan and his role, they might be like, oh, where's he going? For me, it's just kind of like, if we see him again, we see him again. I'm not blaming the actor if he wants to move away. I'm not blaming the decision makers who are saying we want to do this with his character until I see it. Like, there's not much I can really say beyond that, just because I don't know the character well enough in the comics as well to say with any certainty like what I want them to do with him.
Totally, I understand. And I'm kind of a similar way. I don't think this is a negative sign necessarily. I think it's strange given how involved he was in the previous project, where we sort of saw Sam become Captain America. But I also sort of understand that the MCU is going through a lot of changes and things like that. So maybe they're planning on putting his direction in a different, putting his character in another direction. Yeah. So I'll be very interested to see what they do with it. And yeah, I'm excited for this one because I've always been a fan of the Captain America films. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But interesting that he's not a part of it anymore.
Yeah, no, certainly. Some other very interesting news, which is also kind of funny to read out. Margot Robbie and her Lucky Chap partners are said to be involved in a new movie adaptation based on the video game, get this, The Sims.
The Sims.
Ababadoo. The game started in 2000. The Loki series director, Kate Herron, is said to be involved directing the movie. And she's been said to be co-writing the screenplay with Bryony Redman. I hope I said that correctly. And the Electronic Arts is said to be involved in creating and producing capacity. I believe there's people that produce the game. Am I right?
Yes, you're correct. Yeah, they're the game producers.
So it's interesting. I do hope
it is, isn't it?
I hope it's a foreign language film and they all speak Simish. That'd be hilarious.
Didn't Katy Perry do one of her songs in the Sims language?
That's so funny. There's actually been like a couple of artists that like there's recordings of them because they have to like learn the Simish language and then they're just like speaking gibberish their song. It's so funny.
Yeah,
I can't.
I've seen that, and I think if they don't do something like that in the soundtrack, which knowing Margot Robbie and obviously from Barbie, where there's such a meta aspect to the score in that film.
Yeah, I
would love it if they did a similar thing with The Sims, even if it's like a a credit song in Simish. I would love that as well.
Yeah, but that's my thing. Like, how are they gonna do the movie in Simish? Is it gonna be they're all speaking
I think
gibberish?
It'll be super meta. I think it's gonna be meta.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? I think it's gonna be like Barbie, where maybe it'll involve EA in some regard or something like that. I think it could be quite funny.
You got to pay for the additional content if you're with EA. That's the issue. Half the movie's locked until you do a payment.
Yeah, you have to open a box. And you might get the film that you want.
Yeah, that's it.
Honestly, I think this could be great if Margot Robbie and her producing partners get the right team involved. I think Kate Herron did a really great job with the Loki series, so she could do a lot with it. And I think the idea of a Sims film could be cool. Cool. We'll just have to wait for more information, I think.
No, it's interesting. It's funny, just conceptually.
It is. I love it. Should we talk about some of this week's releases that are available in theatre and streaming?
Certainly.
So, Sydney Sweeney's latest film, Immaculate, has opened with $5.36 million at the domestic box office. It is the largest opening for distributor Neon ever. So that's been really successful, especially for sort of a smaller horror film.
Yep.
We've heard great things about it. We are keen to check it out at some point when we get a chance.
It is a short movie as well, though. It's only about an hour and a half.
It is.
So short runtime.
It is a short runtime. I've heard sort of the similar criticisms to other films, and I know this isn't my thoughts, but just people are saying it sort of has a good build up and pays it off really well at the end, which I think is what can sort of hold a lot of horror films back.
Yeah.
Where the ending doesn't quite land with the suspense of the start. But I heard this one does nail the landing, so that's why I'm really keen to check it out.
Yeah, it's good worth to check it out.
Obviously, we have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire available in theaters now, and we'll be talking about that within this podcast. Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, is now available in theaters and IMAX, and it's being directed by Adam Wingard, and that is available now. Came out today, so the 29th.
Yes. Not to stunning reviews, I will briefly say. To be fair, like from all the other MonsterVerse films, it's getting kind of similar criticisms. But yeah, from what I've seen so far, it's not being hugely well received.
Yeah, I've heard some people say it's a lot of fun, and there's some great moments within it, but you're right, I have heard similar things. But of course, we will be going out to check that one, and we'll bring you our thoughts on it when we get a chance. But we're excited to check it out because, you know, as much as we know what these films are, we do have a lot of fun with them. I think that's safe to say. Am I right, Toby?
Yes. Yeah.
For the most part, at least. I personally really enjoy the 2014 Godzilla and Kong Skull Island. And we did say as well earlier in one of our last podcasts that we'll bring you a ranking on the MonsterVerse films after we see this one. So we'll do sort of a special segment on that later on in our future podcasts.
Yep.
In addition, for those of you who haven't had a chance yet, Kung Fu Panda 4 is also still in theaters if you didn't get a chance to see that one. I know Toby is on the edge of his seat to go see it, and we will have to make that happen at some point.
We'll have to catch it soon.
Yeah, we definitely will. But yeah, for any families who are looking for some films to see over the break, Kung Fu Panda 4 is still available in theaters. An interesting one, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, the second one, the sequel, is available for a very limited time in theaters and is the sequel to the critically panned first one, I would say.
Critically acclaimed, as they say, yeah.
Did you get a chance to see the first one?
I've seen parts of it. It's terrible.
Have you actually?
Yeah,
it's bad.
I you know how we're trying to be reserved in like saying that, like, oh, you know, every film's got a redeeming quality. This is just crap. It's just a bad film.
Like, I haven't seen it. I genuinely haven't even bothered to try.
It's just yeah, like very indulgent, and like, you know how like the old slimy horror films are just kind of like slasher. I can't say the next word, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Where it's just kind of
yes.
like, yeah. It's like that, but with Winnie the Pooh, which is like a childhood franchise. So it just comes off as very like disturbed to me, but like not in like a, whoa, kind of creepy kind of horror movie. It's just kind of like, why'd you make this? Like, I'm sure you made a bunch of money, but like, it's not a good film. And
it did make a bunch of money because people did go and see it for the novelty of it, and it's made enough money to justify a second. But I should say it is receiving better reviews than the first one.
Oh, really? Okay, I've heard some.
Yeah, it's got a bigger budget.
Still crap, but
I haven't don't get me wrong, it is. But the first one got like really bad reviews. This one's getting like very mixed, where some people are actually saying they had a good time with it.
They're just going to keep waiting. That's just what I've heard. They're going to keep waiting for like things become public domain, like Disney characters become.
What if we just? I swear we had a new one fairly recently.
So
we had the sailboat Mickey, didn't we?
Yeah, the sailboat Mickey. I think in this one it was that Tigger became public domain because he was like created like 2 years, like a year after Winnie the Pooh. So like he's going to be in this one, I believe. As I said, I actually haven't looked too much into it, but I believe that's what this one's going to be. But the creators were like, oh, we're going to wait for everything to become like public domain. We're just going to like create like a horror universe like of films. So like you're going to have a Peter Pan and like all this crap together to be like horror. It's just going to be, to be fair, you can do a good Peter Pan horror film because he's stealing children, like easy dubs. But yeah, this is just odd to say the least.
It is, yeah. Oh, well, anyone who maybe was a fan of the first one, whether there's one or two you are there,
apologize.
There is this, there is a second one that you can actually see in theaters, which I find remarkable. We also have a new horror film called The First Omen, and that is releasing on April 5th in theaters by Akasha Stevenson. I've seen a few trailers and kind of heard about this one. It's quite a major release as far as I'm aware, but it is going to be released on April 5th. So we'll probably see that one if we get a chance, but just due to the incredible backlog that we're going to have during April, we'll have to see how that goes. Yeah. But yeah, if you have a desire for a new horror film beyond Immaculate and the Late Night with the Devil, you will have The First Omen available on April 5th.
Yeah.
And for any of you who don't have a chance to go out to a theater, we have a new series on Netflix called Three Body Problem. It's released in Netflix in its entirety. It's not like a weekly episode release. It's the whole thing's on there. And there's a lot of really great acclaim for this one. It's a new sci-fi series, and I heard a lot of things. about it. I've heard that just get through the first 2 episodes. It can be a bit slow at the start, but once you get through that, apparently it has a really great season. And people are really excited for more.
Sam Tully's in it from Game of Thrones.
Is he?
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
Isn't Wong in it from the MCU as well?
Maybe. I just remember seeing Sam Tully in the Netflix advertisement that runs on the top because I was
really
looking for something to watch, and I was like, wait a minute, that's Sam Tully. What's he doing? But yeah, sorry if I don't know the actor's actual name, but yeah, that might actually maybe go watch it.
I'm definitely gonna go watch it just because I've heard a lot about it. Has some really great writers behind it, so that one is available on Netflix now if you want to go see that one.
Yeah.
Toby and I are just going to take a quick break before we bring you our thoughts on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Stay tuned for more.
Welcome back to the Club Podcast. We're going to be going through our summary and review of the film Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. We'll, of course, do our spoiler-free section first, just tell you some general facts about the film, our initial thoughts without going into anything plot-related for those who do want to see it, and then, of course, we'll do our spoiler section afterwards. Do you want to get us started, Will?
Yeah, so this film is the newest entry in the Ghostbusters franchise, of course. The film is about the Spengler family who returns to where it all started, the iconic New York City firehouse. They have teamed up with the original Ghostbusters, who developed a top-secret research lab to take busting ghosts to the next level. But when the discovery of an ancient artifact unleashes an army of ghosts that cast a death chill upon the city, Ghostbusters new and old must join forces to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. Very interesting premise. Of course, related to the fact that it's called Frozen Empire. There's a lot of ice in this film, I'd say, Toby.
I get it now.
You get it? Because, everything freezes.
It was cold. Yeah.
Yeah.
And ghosts, they make you have a chill down your... I see what they did. All right.
It's good, isn't it?
That's really good.
So, it's being directed by Gil Kenan, who previously did A Boy Called Christmas, Scream the TV series, and the popular Monster House.
Yeah, Monster House, okay.
Yeah. So, why don't you start us off? What did you think about this film?
The Ghostbusters franchise has had a bit of a rough run in its more modern interpretation. I think the 2016 film, which we briefly mentioned earlier, just did not get received well. I certainly didn't enjoy it. And I think what they're doing with the continuation of the original story with these new ones, it's got the same sort of issue where I just feel like they're relying on nostalgia to carry it through, and kind of the concept of these people that fight ghosts with science is it's cool. I'm not going to deny that's a cool concept. It's just that you got to do something more for me now. We're seeing films that have these eccentric plots, so you can't just rely on that. And the same thing happened with this film. I thought the interesting setup, interesting premise. I actually when, as much as I was making fun of it before, the Frozen Empire part, I actually thought it was kind of cool. The chill down your spine and everything freezes type of thing. I don't think that
I actually say I agreed.
Yeah,
I thought the Frozen idea was really cool, and the Frozen Empire looks really great as well.
Yeah. So in that respect, where it's kind of I thought there was elements of it that actually were kind of cool and creepy in that childish type of way, where it's kind of it would be kind of terrifying to see someone frozen just from fear and stuff like that. And it was I see as much as making a joke of it, I see what they did there. It's it is kind of a cool connection to say frozen with fear and then making that jump to actual temperature. But beyond that, the film offered very little, I felt, in comparison to perhaps what it could have. They had a huge cast. They brought back so many of the original Ghostbusters, and in that it kind of got lost with who I'm meant to be following, who I'm meant to be caring about, what I'm meant to be caring about. And it also is probably my issue here. I'll take fault this one. I haven't watched the original Ghostbusters films in a longest time, so when they bring back certain characters, I'm I actually don't remember anything about you. Beyond that, I know that you're an original Ghostbuster. So in that respect, it's kind of hard to follow all these characters just jumping in randomly, unless you're very up to date with the Ghostbusters franchise. But yeah, there was some elements that I enjoyed. So obviously the Frozen concept, I thought there was some good acting. Yeah, just a lot of characters moving around, a lot of things they'll try and do with the plot that I felt certain things were overindulged, other things were underindulged, and it just made it very hard to have a streamlined story to get where it needed to be. But
do you think there was too many characters?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think it lost a bit of focus because it was balancing too many elements?
The issue was there was 9-ish characters, if not more, and only 2 of them had any type of depth to them. And even then, it was when I say depth, surface level, the childhood woes of being 15, that type of stuff in comparison to I don't know, I think they were trying to do more, but they just, maybe it was, production, we had to cut screen time and stuff like that, but yeah, they just really only explored the 2 characters, and everyone else was kind of just left to appear and fight ghosts. Yeah, which is fun, but not enough for a story.
Yeah. And I should ask you, what do you think of the villain, the main sort of premise of who the Ghostbusters have to bust?
Not great. But to the same extent, what can you do except to have a ghost? That's not any. Yeah. Sorry to spoil it for those. I know this is a spoiler-free section. They fought ghosts, funnily enough. But
in Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I don't know. There was parts of it that were cool. I thought the design was a bit iffy. I know they have to make it child-friendly, but you can always make something look scarier.
See, I disagree. I thought the design was really cool.
Really?
Yeah, I actually liked it for a family-friendly film.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I wasn't going in expecting this to be a harder horror film, obviously.
Yeah.
But I thought that the design was pretty cool for what I thought they could do. I love I always loved the sort of long-fingered hands kind of thing. I think that can create a lot of cool imagery.
Yeah.
I like the jokes I could make about the headpiece. There's lots to be said about that. I thought it was funny. Ultimately, I thought the design was the bit I liked the most.
Really?
I'll put it to you that way. I thought as in the design of all of it, the look of the film, I thought looked really great. I think the modernization and the modern effects and things like that lends really well to Ghostbusters. And I love the kind of incorporation of practical elements as well, especially with the character Baggy. I think that's what they're calling him, the trash. Ghost.
Yeah.
I actually thought those elements worked really well.
Yeah.
The issues I had were mainly sort of where the film goes in the third act. But ultimately, I thought the look and feel of the film actually works in the most part. I was a bit like you, though. There was plot elements that didn't quite make this film stand out or live up to what I was hoping it would be, personally.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah, I might run through my brief thoughts on it.
Yeah, go for it.
I enjoyed it more than I think you did.
Yeah.
I actually had a good time with it. I thought many of the jokes worked. I mean, when the jokes fell flat, they fell flat. But when they worked, I was actually having a really good time. I thought there was some great relationship dynamics. I thought especially with McKenna Grace and the original Ghostbuster, whose name is escaping me, but sort of who acted as a grandfather figure.
Oh, yeah. Ray Stantz.
So their relationship was really good, and I liked the journey that Paul Rudd's character sort of goes on as well, with, being this father figure to McKenna Grace's character, and also having to balance the idea of the kids wanting to be Ghostbusters, but having to protect them as well. These are not new ideas, but I thought that in this family-friendly film, they ultimately worked, that there was emotion with that. And I also just loved any scene with the Ecto-1, which probably comes from nostalgia, but I just love just those scenes. Whenever I saw the Ecto-1 come out, I was immediately invested in whatever was going on.
The car, for those not in the know.
Yeah, the Ecto-1 is the car, and I just love the sound design as well with that. I just thought it was really cool. But you're right, there is a lot of issues I have in terms of the plot. It doesn't offer anything distinctly new. And for me, it's the third act that falls flat, ultimately. Not saying it can't work for a lot of people, it just didn't work for me. It felt like they were building towards something that they had to change. I don't know if you got that feeling as well. It felt like they wanted to go further, but they couldn't. And that is the main issue I have. And I have that issue with a lot of sort of family-friendly, specifically big blockbusters, where it kind of becomes a CGI battle, but they can't do a lot of battling. So it's kind of ends up being a easy finale.
The power of friendship. Go.
Yeah. And, not getting into anything that actually specifically happens in the spoiler-free section, but I just felt like they could have gone further with the action and suspense they build throughout it. Because I thought there was some really great horror imagery with the introduction of the main villain that just didn't kind of come to any fruition. And that villain, who could have seemed really menacing and evil, just kind of fell flat because they didn't have enough time to do this big ending.
Might be like a universal thing where it's just kind of like power scaling with like villains and child-friendly films, as in like there's only so much you can power up a Ghostbuster to like take on like a new, more powerful ghost, essentially, where it's just like you can introduce it with like these sick-as horror sequences and like really show off like how daunting and scary these characters are, and then like you get to the final fight, it's like what really can you do except have it a semi-decently easy victory? Like that's at least for me. But I think that's part of like you can do a really cool villain, but then like the second you get to the third act, it kind of just falls apart because you don't have the time to develop much.
I agree. I liked when the villain first made an appearance. Like, you see this villain kill people. Like, it's this villain is evil to the extent of what we've seen in the previous Ghostbuster films. I just felt like they could have taken it so much further, exactly as you kind of summed up for me there. Like, it's a bit an issue in a lot of these types of films where you can't go any further with it. And I think they're also trying to keep to a specific runtime as well. So it kind of felt a little bit like they rushed the ending with a really great sort of opening. I thought the opening of the film was really great. I loved the car chase and how we introduced to the Ghostbusters. I think it's really noteworthy to say that it's kind of the first Ghostbusters film where we see the Ghostbusters in action from the start. In the other films in the franchise, they've either been, they become the laughingstock of New York or whatever it may be, and you sort of see them have to rebuild themselves. In this film, you see the Ghostbusters as Ghostbusters from the very beginning. There is no development of, we have to get the equipment or whatever it is. Like, they're in it and they're doing their thing. And I like that element a lot, that we didn't have to sort of go through this revision that we've seen in previous films of the Ghostbusters trying to regain their momentum and their power, that we were just straight in there with them at their best. And I like that element a lot.
Yeah, so I got some good reviews here as well. Some of them I'm finding pretty funny, but just so we can get like a general audience perspective, there's some like average views. I think like people are giving it 3 out of 5 and stuff like that. I got one here. Solid entry in the franchise. McKinnon Grace continues to shine as a standout. It's a great character, and McKinnon does an excellent job as Phoebe. Paul Rudd can do no wrong in my book. His boyish charm is ever present and continues to be one of the best casting decisions for the franchise. Thought it was very cool to see Dan, I'm not going to try his last name, sorry, get a sizable role in this one, as well as the original writers. Along with the original writers and original cast coming back. Which, so, some people loving it.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. I'd agree with a lot of what that person said.
Some comments on the comedy. I love their confidence to saying busting in every sentence given today's context. I think that one's a bit funny.
That was my review.
Yeah,
I didn't tell you that.
A couple of reviews with spoilers, so I'll avoid these ones. Here's my favorite one, and I just want to ask. This is by Kyle, and I'm not sure what's going on with Kyle in his life, but he said, "These movies make me feel like I don't know what ghosts are." Enter Kyle. What are ghosts? Why do you know what ghosts are? Why are you comparing your ghost to the ghosts of Ghostbusters? I think you should see someone. But yeah, that's some of the reviews. So like, some people are enjoying it, some people are hating it. I don't like to read too much into like the terrible ones unless I find them really funny to make fun of, because like more often than not, when they're giving like half a star, they're just crapping on it mindlessly. But yeah, I think people who enjoy the franchise can still enjoy this one. It might be one of those ones that I say wait for streaming to go and watch if you're interested in it. If you love the franchise, go see it in the cinemas. It's not one that I'm highly recommending to see if you just love movies as much, especially with some of the fantastic films that are coming out right now. It's not one that I would necessarily rush to first. But it's still it's still a watchable thing. Like, it's not a terrible movie in any sense. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it. Do you agree, or?
Yeah, I would say people who are fans of the Ghostbusters sequel that we got with Paul Rudd, like that one, the third movie, I think it is, in the franchise. If you like that one, go see this one, because it has a lot of the family elements that carried over from that film, Ghostbusters Afterlife. So if you really enjoyed that one, I'd say it's a great film to go see. For those of you who aren't huge fans of the franchise, because it is, as sort of Toby said before, it's run a lot on nostalgia, and sort of it feels like a a huge continuation of the other films. And some people aren't fans of those. That they aren't perfect films by any sense of the matter, but they're very important to a lot of people. So if you like the other films in the franchise, I'd say go see this one on the big screen. Hear it in the best sound and visuals you can. But if you're not a huge fan of the Ghostbusters franchise, you could probably wait for this one. Check it out when it's on streaming, or even buy or rent it when it comes out. I'd totally say that that's fair enough. I would agree with sort of what some of the reviews were saying before. There is a really good cast here. I especially thought McKenna Grace was a standout, as the first reviewer you said pointed out. And I also thought some of the design elements were really cool. But ultimately, yeah, the story does fall a little bit flat for me. But I would say go see this one if you are a fan of the franchise. If you're not, maybe give this one a miss, or check it out when it comes on streaming. I'd agree.
Yep. I think we'll go into our spoiler section now, so we'll sound the alarm for all those who do want to go see it, and then we'll get into our discussions that involve the plot a little bit more. So you've had your fair warning, the alarms are stopped now, so why don't we get started? Do you want to kick us off, Frosty?
Yeah, so I want to start off by saying I thought the opening with that, the sewer creature and that sequence at the start with the Ecto-1 was probably the highlight of the film for me. I really enjoyed it. Sometimes the dialogue could be a little bit, cheesy and stuff like that, but ultimately
incredibly cheesy.
But I thought it felt very Ghostbusters. Do you know what I mean? I think that's why it was such a strong opening, where it felt like, oh, this is what the Ghostbusters films are. Like, some funny but sort of corny jokes with a really fun action sequence in an iconic car. I was like, this is how I imagine Ghostbusters is. Don't get me wrong, it was not perfect by any sense of the matter, especially in terms of dialogue, but it had a lot of energy to it, and it had the right energy. I just felt that the energy that the film starts with, and the plot and the mystery that it creates, and even some of the lore elements I really enjoyed. The building on the Ghostbusters mythology with the ghosts, and the idea of where do you store these ghosts? Because I've been wondering that every film.
Yeah.
Like, where do they put these monsters at the end? And that becoming a major part of the film, I like those elements a lot. Where it falls is when the orb opens and the villain comes into the world. That is so brief in the film, and the ending is not, it loses all the suspense and excitement that had been developed in the first half, in my opinion. I saw what was going to happen. I didn't think that the choreography of any of it was that good. I know it's hard to create sort of an action sequence, and I'm not asking for, a violent, hand to fist fight, but what I'm saying is I just thought they brought back all the Ghostbusters for this iconic sequence that just didn't quite deliver for me. That's my main criticism. It's sort of in the spoiler section, was the third act fell flat for me, especially with such a strong opening. What do you think, Toby?
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree that the opening was all that strong, but the third act was pretty bad. I think you actually hit on like a really funny point to me, is that One of the major plot points was that where you are storing the ghosts, like there's a capacity to it, and you can't hold them all in there. But the way they actually end up saving the day is by locking this really powerful ghost in the exact same containment that's basically broken, which is like, what? Like the entire time you're complaining that you got to start moving ghosts across to like another containment area. And like I know they released some, but like the idea to me that they just locked the bad guy in the same thing that was causing issues the entire time is like, what? Doesn't make any sense. I think, yeah, I enjoyed the sequences that felt like Ghostbustery, like he did the opening sequence. I actually really liked the actual opening sequence where like the firemen are walking into like the frozen room. I thought that was like a decent way to like introduce the concept. I think that's what I kind of think that maybe you can do better with. Like if you're talking about a Ghostbusters film and you want to create like a daunting antagonist, it doesn't necessarily need to be like this ghost that looks incredibly terrifying. I thought the idea of just like the ground freezing around you just because of how scared you are by like, you know, like the old horror mode of like you're more scared of what you can imagine than like what you actually see. Like
yes, absolutely.
You can still hit on that in a kid's film, like to the point that you need to show what I thought. I know you disagree. I thought the villain looked kind of goofy. It was just like a slender man with horns. Like doesn't scare me all that much. And like I know it's a kid's film, like it's not meant to scare me.
I mean, you could say he was horny.
Oh my god. And yeah, I just didn't think that was as scary as like conceptually things freezing around you are, like just generally being so scared that you freeze up. For the elements that I thought that worked, there's actually like a lot of reviews about this, and I agree. It's very interesting to see a plot carried by lesbian ghosts. I'll say that lightly. I don't know if they fully intended for them to be like romantic.
I wasn't sure throughout the film, to be honest. Like, what is that like confirmed? Is that the direction they were going?
Oh, no idea. I haven't talked to the directors about it just yet. But yeah, it's how it came off to me at the very least, and that's like the only part that I felt overly compelling. It was still shallow, as in it was just like a 15-year-old girl doesn't like her family. That's every 15-year-old girl. Like, and then she finds a friend who's like, you know, kind of sassy like her, and you know they kick it off and stuff like that. But I thought both of their performances were like engaging enough that I was like, okay, I can like get behind, like this is fine. And like it was also one of the few ones that like kind of went through into the third plot. Like you saw where it was going. It was so obvious, but like at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm happy with how that concluded, and we can leave it there. But yeah, everything else I thought like they had a couple of plot points I'll try and go through. Like you mentioned in I think the spoiler-free section that Paul Rudd had like a character arc, and his was just kind of like that stepdad wants to be a father arc, and I thought it was done averagely. Like it's kind of uncompelling.
It was done in the same way it has been done in these types of films before.
Yeah. And then Finn Wolfhardt's character he's 18, so he's an adult, so he's trying to be more independent, and it was that he couldn't get a ghost out of the attic. Like, what? Your Ghostbusters. Like, realistically, first of all, the mum should be helping get rid of the ghost in the attic. At the same time, like, he's 18. Like, he can be an adult and still need help. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, so that one was kind of lost to me.
I agree. I did think that one fell a bit flat, yeah.
And then there was a couple of, like, and these are going to be, like, really nitpicky, but this is just me, like, saying that these kind of annoy me. They introduced, like, this ghost that, like, possesses different items. And, like, it's kind of... It's significant to the plot just because, like, it's the reason that the major bad guy gets released, because it, like, possesses... this series of events, anyway, it's important, but the way they introduce it is, like, it's locked in basically a cage that it can't get out of, and they're studying it. And what they do is they show, like, this red little dot, like, jumping between items. But in the final sequence, that ghost comes back very briefly. It's not, like, important, but they show it having to touch the next object that it wants to possess before it can possess it, but it never showed that in the original part. So that kind of confused me. It was like, you established, like, the lore for this, how this ghost works, and then you just, like, change it in the final act to make it a little bit more manageable, I suppose. Like, that was my logic. And then it also came back that the ghost that Finn Wolfhardt's character couldn't get rid of ends up just eating it. Like, if it was that easy to take care of, like, I feel like I feel like he would have worked that out. Like, come on. Like, thing to destroy the object that the thing's possessed. Like, it's so easy. Anyway, But yeah, like there's just a couple things like that where it's easy solutions, or like they retcon something that they've done 30 minutes ago just to make it like more manageable. And those type of things, like they all add up just to like annoy me when I'm watching it. And like there's probably people that are like, it's a Ghostbusters film, like you don't have to critically analyze it this hard. Of course there's going to be like gaps in the plot, but at the same time, like I got to be able to enjoy myself without being like, this doesn't make any sense. But look, yeah, that's just how I'm feeling about it. I know you probably disagree with like some of the stuff at the start, saying like there's nothing interesting going on. It's kind of slow and kind of weird for me, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, I think the start is what holds up for me. I think that I like I've heard a lot of criticisms that the start is slow and boring. And I understand that. That's what I'm trying to say. I do understand that argument, but I personally did find it intriguing. I actually liked... I think it was kind of that Jaws effect. And I mean, mainly, when I talk about the start, I mean the idea of this, this evil kept in this unknown orb. And the impact, especially with the first scene with the firefighters, like you said, with the frozen environment, and then sort of them trying to figure out what is this thing and how does it work. For the most part, it felt like a Ghostbusters movie in that, and it delivered that mystery intrigue that is, at least they're trying to do it in a sort of a family-friendly way, and I felt that it did that. And it was only when they sort of went into the action sequences that it fell for me. Not through it at the start, but in the end. I didn't find the start as boring. I don't say. I think it held up for me, and the film progressively deteriorated in my eyes. But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, though.
Yeah, it might be one of those things where like we're both kind of right. We're just perceiving it differently. Where it's kind of like at the start, there's only so much you can like criticize, because like it's too early on to say like, oh, the plot's moving in this direction. Whereas I'm just saying that like by the end of it, there was all this stuff that like you watched earlier on like coming to fruition, and it's just not working, and that's why the end feels so much worse. It's just at the start, at least for me, doesn't set it up well enough to end well. So like in that way, like the film's kind of consistent in there's just plot holes and like underwritten characters and underwritten dialogue and stuff like that, but it might just also feel like at the same time like you can enjoy the start because they're Ghostbusters and they're fighting a big ghost, and then by the end of it it's like they're fighting an even bigger ghost but with plot holes. Like that could be the sense. Like we're both kind of right at the same time, just to give an easy resolution for us.
I totally understand what you're saying. I ultimately enjoyed it. I feel like I kind of want to say that. I didn't come out disappointed. I came out with my expectations met, but I should confess they weren't high in the first place.
Yeah.
But I came out going, that was not a waste of my time. I actually was entertained for the runtime, and I felt like you and I had a good time in there. You know what I mean? We enjoyed the movie to an extent, as in we didn't come out going like, we wish we hadn't watched that, I'm dreading talking about it. I actually had a fun time with it. And I feel like everyone else in there, it was a very quiet cinema, but no one walked out. No one was, hating on it. Everyone was having a giggle. It feels like a movie that, for those of you who have a free night with your family and don't know what to go see, you can go see this film, and it's harmlessly fun. Yeah,
that's fair. I can agree that I did come out of it and be like, that was terrible. But my expectations for this film were like abysmally low. So like when I came out, I was like, that was better than I expected. I didn't expect much. Like it was really an easy standard to hit. But no, you're hitting on the point that like, it's not a film that I was like, oh, like I really don't even like know how to say like what I'm feeling about this film. Like as I said, there's redeemable qualities, and this isn't like a Madam Web situation where we're just being nice for the sake of it. Like this film does actually have like some intriguing points to it. It's just like altogether, it's not something I'm going to go rewatch. It's not something that I'm telling people to go watch. It's just a film that like, if you want to see it, see it. I'm indifferent to how I feel about it, in the most part. But yeah, you're hitting on the points that like, it's not a bad film. Like when we're saying this type of stuff, like it's not so terrible. It's just not great, essentially.
Yeah, and I think fans of the franchise, it has the same flaws as the other ones. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think this does anything different than the other films that came before it, and like Afterlife. My criticisms of Afterlife are probably fairly similar to this one.
Yeah.
I personally preferred Afterlife a little bit, but then I think, yes, in terms of I think it ended better, but I liked the design of this one more. I like the concept of the Frozen Empire better than I did with the concept of Afterlife. But I found the introduction into the world of Ghostbusters again was really good in Afterlife, and I liked the characters in that. And you had a bit more time with Paul Rudd's character and McKenna Grace, and it felt like it was trying to balance less characters. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't rushing itself as much as I felt like this movie sort of was to get to certain places and to develop certain aspects, which ultimately ended up feeling a little underdeveloped because it was trying to do so much. So I felt like Afterlife was a little better balanced, but I thought that the individual sequences of Frozen Empire, like I will probably remember certain sequences better because I like the design of the Frozen Empire, as we've sort of said, and some of the sequences at the start were a bit more memorable than I think some of the ones in Afterlife were.
Yeah, it's perhaps more distinctive in its style.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's...
I definitely feel that.
That's all. I can agree with that stuff. I actually, like, vaguely remember Afterlife. I didn't watch it in the best circumstances, as in, like, it was a drive-through and my car sound didn't work, so... but, like, yeah.
Silent film.
Silent film. Yeah, it was weird. But, yeah, I would probably say I preferred this one over Afterlife, and once again, that can be just because of the way that I viewed them. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Ghostbusters franchise is at a weird point right now where they're probably going to do another one.
I think we're going to get a third.
To the extent that...
I think we're going to complete this trilogy.
Yeah, to the extent that they need to... Yeah, I don't know how many ghosts are there to bust. Also, like, just in the one city. The world has plenty of ghosts. Go, like, international, come on. But...
That's not a bad call. Maybe New York has run its course in terms of the Ghostbusters. It might be fun to see ghosts pop up in other cities or
New York's haunted by
countries. Yeah. I think New York's had its fair share of scares. Maybe another city could add a nice layer to the next film. That could be a good call.
Don't encourage them to like just make like a series of Australian ghosts. Ooh, it's just Ned Kelly.
That would be very funny.
Yeah. I don't know, but nah. I feel like that's all that you can really be said about it. You got any closing statements?
Yeah, I just wanted to go into the Garbage Ghost Baggy and just say a little fun filming fact about him, if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me.
Of course I will.
The Garbage Ghost Baggy was largely created with practical effects. So, according to the director, the special effects department actually created a trash bag that had basically a couple of footholds for a puppeteer to step into so that you could hobble around. So, basically, the director was able to block sequences with this use of the puppeteer, and then that was obviously overlaid with computer graphics afterwards. So the performance of that trash bag was, with a performer's leg stuck to it, was absolutely hilarious, and they sort of left a lot of those elements in. But I just think that's really fun that when I see those sequences now, I'm going to imagine like a guy in a trash bag costume, like hobbling around.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a fun little fact.
That's funny.
And I love the little... it felt a little bit more realistic than the other ghosts because you could tell there's sort of a practical element with it. And it's just funny to imagine that's what it is.
Yeah.
But so any of you who go, well, many of you would have seen the film already, but that character was, they used a bit of practical effects with that one. And I thought that was a lot of fun. Just a cool little fact there.
No, that is a very cool little fact.
Would you like to go into the closing statements and how many claps you give it?
Yeah, I feel like I've said everything that I can say about the film. My rating will come off as a little harsh, but I feel like I just have to try and keep a mildly objective and consistent viewpoint with these films.
Feel a dig.
Yeah, basically. I'm going to give it 4 claps.
4 claps.
Just to say that like it's a below average film. Essentially, like it's just that's what it is. It's coming off as harsh. I don't think it's like unwatchable to the same extent that I might give other 4 out of 10 films. But yeah, that's just how I'm feeling about it. What's your rating? Mine
has been changing ever since we saw it.
Okay.
Between 2 numbers, and still am undecided because we obviously don't do halves here.
Of course not.
So I'm going to go with my good cop persona and go towards the higher end.
Yep.
But it was between a 5 or a 6, and I'm going to give it a 6 claps.
Okay. Yep.
Right? I actually had a good time seeing it. I think for me, a lot of the way I sort of my enjoyment of films comes from my experience with it. So seeing it with my best friend and on a after a really good meal with some friends, I just went in a positive attitude. And I had such a busy week, and I was just really glad to go and escape for 2 hours, and I did. And whilst there was a lot of issues with it, I did enjoy it, and I laughed a few times, and I giggled, and I ultimately had a good time. So I'm going to lean towards the positive end and go, it's a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
It could easily be a 5 out of 10. It could be an average film.
Yeah.
Which is probably what it is realistically. But I think my experience seeing it was really positive. So I'm going to go a 6 out of 10 claps.
Fair enough.
Yep. So for those of you who want to go see it, it is still available in theaters now. Thank you so much for listening to our thoughts on the film. Stay tuned for next week. Do you want to hint at what we're going to go see, Toby?
Nah, leave it obscure.
Leave it obscure. I think it's a very different film to what we reviewed this
sort
week.
Of genre, but
same genre, yeah.
I suppose. But yeah, no, I'm excited about this one. So we'll be talking about that one next week. Thank you guys for listening. Any other closing statements?
Oh no, just please share the clap and no, please don't forget to follow us on anywhere that you get your podcasts, and stay tuned for next week's episode. Thank you so much for listening.
This one.
Bye.